last name correctly? Is it
You
Rokey?
did.
Wow, look at me. 1 for 1 to start off this call. Love it. So Jason works for Mesa Verde. Jason, can you give everyone a quick elevator pitch? We're in the lobby, getting on the elevator. We meet. We're going up to the 14th floor. Who are you? What do you do? And what is Mesa Verde?
Perfect. Jason Rokey. I am a 18-year veteran of the pet food industry, have been in operations and procurement most of my career, the last 3 years in business development with Mesa Verde. We essentially are supply chain creators. We have 4 processing plants in the U.S. We source and dry our own fruits and vegetables, mainly potato and tomato pommes, but we also build supply chains around any unique needs that the pet industry has, from functional ingredients to proteins.
Awesome. Awesome. And you guys I know you're located in Texas, but where is everyone else in Mesa?
Yeah, so our corporate headquarters is in Fresno, California, and
Okay.
then we have plants in California, Oregon, North Dakota, Colorado, and a transload facility in Boston, Indiana. And just this year, we recently added one in St. Matthews, North
Awesome.
Carolina.
Awesome. And what are who are the main companies that you're sourcing for, that you're selling to? Is there anyone
We
in
we pretty
particular, or?
much we pretty much hit the major co-manufacturers and even brands that would have their own plants. So we touch a lot of people, a lot of different areas. Some of our customers are actually we connect with them through other brokers who are providing other services.
Okay.
But we pretty much are touching most all the major co-manufacturers, primarily dedicated to dry kibble extrusion. That's the primary segment of the food industry, of the pet food industry, that our ingredients are targeted in today. However, we have made a pretty big push into the freeze dried and fresh category as that's starting to ramp up and gain a lot of steam and traction with people.
Yeah. No, that's great. I mean, you'll love to hear this story then. So to give you a quick rundown, elevator pitch, Brian, Oma's Pride, director of e-commerce, family, 4th generation family owned and operated company in Connecticut, that started in the 50s as a poultry farm. So the great grandmother was helping raise thousands of turkeys, turned into a distribution channel and company for all local grocers in the New England area, and that did really well for quite some time. And then in the 1990s, her daughter, who was the 2nd generation owner, her dog was getting really sick and getting old, not herself, and she was like, "Ah, man, this sucks." Looked outside of her back window one day and saw a wolf eating an animal carcass. And she was like, "These wolves have been around here forever. I know that's the same wolf. It's got to be 50 years old, that wolf, right?" So she went on this raw food rampage where she started feeding her dog that was really sick. They were a turkey farm. So,
Sure.
concocting recipes with, fruits and vegetables and turkey parts, chicken necks, turkey necks. And within 30 days of feeding all this stuff, her dog, got better. So she's started going off and selling her, mixes and going to local trade shows with coolers of food. And that's how Oma's Pride started. So that was in the mid 1990s.
90s. Wow.
Um, and we still produce. That facility is a USDA kitchen and facility. And it's a couple towns over from where I'm recording now. So this is our like distribution center in all of our offices. So this is where we ship direct to consumer and to all of our distributors and retail stores and wholesalers. And a couple towns over is where our USDA facility is, and we procure all of our own product from the United States. Besides, we sell kangaroo, so that obviously does not come from the United States.
Yeah, it's
But
not a U.S. animal.
yeah, you don't see a kangaroo hopping around Connecticut, but and I wish she was on the call so you can meet her too. But Mitch, who does a fantastic job for us, she's our procurement director, and we've been working with the same family farms, especially with our poultry products, since the 50s and 60s. So a lot of these companies that
Nice.
we have like really long generational relationships with, and our chicken comes from the same guy that it's been coming from for decades. Our turkey comes from the same guy, and our beef and etc. But the one thing, like you mentioned, we used to have like 4 recipes, right? We used to have our chicken, our turkey, our beef, and then our lamb. And now we're expanding. We have a lot more novel proteins. We're doing a lot more like a lot more single ingredient freeze dried stuff. We're doing a lot more like toppers, supplements, etc. And I shot Mitch a call because I was like, "Hey, check them out. When I'm on the call with them, what do we need, right?" So let me read you, see what we need, right? So she goes, "That's awesome!" Exclamation point. She's older, so she's not the greatest texter, but uh, blueberry. So I don't know if you guys do some
Absolutely.
blueberry product,
Yes,
um,
sir.
and then pumpkin.
Yep.
All right, so we're 2 for 2 here, and I just said what else? Question mark. So I'll keep you posted on that. But that's like an area where now that we're developing product lines and we're coming out with new mixes and new recipes, that she's always on the horn with whoever she can in order to get us the best quality, right? So that's like one thing that I think like stands us apart, where we could cut our costs down by 30% by going with whoever, but we really foster and build relationships with not only other family farm companies, but
Sure.
people with obviously really really good quality. So that's really cool. How would that go about now? Like, let's just say, I mean, this is actually a real case scenario. This isn't me just asking what if. How does that process go about? Like, hey, Jay, can you see what you can do for me on these two things?
Absolutely. Yeah. Send me an email or Mitch, and we'll it's, hey, we're looking for pumpkin and blueberry. We can respond back with spec sheets, standard pricing, the type of product we currently do today. And I would also say if there's anything else that are a struggle that she's dealing with, we do build supply chains and create supply chains. We're currently working with some customers developing some beef products out of a facility in southern Kansas that's doing grass-fed organic beef. And so we're looking at a couple different products and more organ meats and different things that we are pulling out of that plant. It's USDA approved facility, freeze it, and then ship it off to customers. So essentially that's how it starts. Then it's just a conversation. We our thing, what I learned years ago in my procurement life was the best suppliers are ones that you have a long-term relationship with and you're seated for the long term.
Sure.
And that's really the same thing that we try to embody at Mesa Verde. Is we want to be there long term. We're not going to flip something and just make a few bucks and walk away. We're going to be there, support from concept all the way to fruition. um, we have a reputation. We're a family run business as well, a small family
It's
business,
awesome.
been in business for about 20, 30 years. And so obviously that legacy is something we want to uphold and
Yeah,
provide quality ingredients, be known for that. So yeah, that's how a lot of it starts. And from there, it's interesting. We start off talking blueberry and pumpkin, and this has been this way with many clients. All of a sudden we're into other things. We developed some organic dried fruits and veggies for a customer a couple of years ago, and since then we developed a functional uh, cooked ancient grain product for them, and we're also in the process of developing a few more items for them. So really, my experience has been in production procurement, and my dad was an extrusion expert, so I grew up in that world, and so I understand a lot of those challenges. So people are coming, hey, we need a pre-cooked ancient grain. Do you guys have anything? We don't produce it, but we know who to connect people with. And I'll tell you, at the end of the day, if it's something that we know somebody else does really well, we'll
sure.
just make the connection and say, hey guys, take it and run with this. Introduce the two parties. I've done that a bunch. There's some things that if I provide a service in the supply chain, if I'm doing some sort of value add for the customer, then we'll stay in it. If we're not doing a value add, if it's just kind of a pass through, or we didn't, it's a relationship maybe that I brought to the table. Other than that, there's no reason for us to be in there and add additional cost, is my
I
opinion.
I hear you. So for instance, I'm on your like product page on your website. Are the products listed on here the ones that y'all produce, or are those the ones that you have like the best relationship with in order to get those products?
Those are all the ones we produce, and we're
Okay.
actually in the process of updating our website, so it's pretty ancient today. But yeah, we are in the process. Everything that we're showing on the website are stuff
Yep.
we're sourcing and producing. That's really our benefit. Is we go directly to farms in most cases in the Central Valley in California, or in North Dakota and in Colorado. We're doing strictly potato in those plants.
Okay.
We contract direct with farmers and growers, and even in California, a lot of our product we've been upcycled for 30 years. We just recently got the certification, but most of our products are and can be considered upcycled. We just haven't gone through the process till now. We're starting to add ingredients as we've started into the year here.
Gotcha.
Um, but our ideal is to source directly from the grower, and we can have, and we know those growers, most of them are family friends of the Wiegand family that owns Mesa Verde. And we source direct from those folks all the way through to handing it off to our customer. So we have complete control of that supply chain. We get asked a lot if we do any international sourcing, and we can,
Yeah.
and we do, and I have contacts so we can do that, but we do very little of that.
Sure. That's great though.
COVID kind of convinced me that, domestic supply chain is good on many fronts,
Mhm.
and even more so, love to support American farmers,
Yes.
American families.
Absolutely. And that's something that, the Olmus Pride family takes, dear to their heart is, you know, everything, no matter if it's our packaging, no matter if it's our actual ingredient, no matter if it's our employees, like everything is US, with the exception of the kangaroo.
Yeah.
Which by the way is when I started, working here, I'm like, hey, just want to point something out here on the website. We're selling kangaroo. That's we're doing that, right? They're like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a popular exotic novel protein. Yeah, yeah. I went through the whole gamut. But it really opens your mind in regards to pet because um, I believe the conversation around, and it's not just, your traditional kibble companies, which are transforming now and they're adding ingredients that they never added 10, 20 years ago to
Yeah.
obviously bring things up, right? But the current stance of the pet industry is ever evolving daily, where it never used to be like that, where, consumers are starting to care obviously more about their animals. They're spending more money on their animals than ever. And it's it's great because of all this innovation that's happening. And I'm not even talking about the technology side of it or e-commerce D2C side of it. I'm just talking about like strict food, treat, etc.
Yeah.
products. And that's really, really cool to see. Are you noticing? I mean, you've been in the role a long time, like compared to 10 or 15 years ago. I mean, I'm sure people are calling you asking for things that they never asked for, a decade ago.
Yeah, 100%. So when I first started, chicken meal, brown rice, and some, peas and chickpeas were kind of the main staples of most formulations.
Hmm.
And we've seen a move into, at least in the kibble space, we've seen a move into dried meats. Instead of buying a meat meal, they'd buy a full dried meat. Then we started seeing inclusion pieces, so freeze dried or air dried inclusion pieces, and now you have a whole ecosystem that's being built around minimally processed, which freeze dried, fresh, that all fits into that realm. And so, definitely seeing those new forms coming to life. And within that, then there's challenges, right? Not every ingredient that works in a kibble is going to work in a freeze dried or a fresh or a minimally processed
Sure.
product. And so then that develops a need. Then how do you develop ingredients to support those changes, those formulas? So trying to think, one of the most unique things that we've looked at sourcing before, obviously kangaroo meal. When that first came about, I thought that's amazing, and so we had a contract. We thought this was going to get big, and it didn't go quite as big as we thought. So we kind of got ourselves in a pickle there. But there's been things such as algae oils, where you get a lot of health benefits by adding an algae oil, or even blue spirulina. I noticed there's a company that's putting blue spirulina in cashew butter, and there's a number of health benefits, and actually starting to see that potentially. Well, yeah, as you see it in food, it migrates into pet food, and
Sure.
so we're starting to see some of those things too. Um, but there's a bunch of unique opportunities, and I think that the biggest opportunity for most everybody in this space is, there's we look outside the US for some things, but I'm telling you, there's a lot of stuff in the US. If you can just find the sources and the people and pull it together, you can develop
Yeah.
supply chains and unique ingredients. And to your point, technology has increased tremendously in the manufacturing space, and that therefore has led into additional technological advancements through ingredients. And
Yeah.
we've been able to see that come to life. I mean, the other one, insect meals. Insect meals were not a thing with except for in the last couple of years. And I think there's still some adoption phase that has to take
Sure.
place there.
Sure.
But I remember as a kid, we would go visit Kansas State University in Manhattan, Kansas. My entire family went to school there and graduated there. I was the black sheep that didn't. But anyway, we would go there and they would have, chocolate coated insects in one of their campus halls that we would go visit, and you could sample this and bring home a thing of grasshoppers. I think it was sour cream and onion grasshoppers, and I remember thinking, "Oh, this is crazy. This will never happen," But you start to see it in food products, you start to see it in pet food, and it opens up a lot of doors. So been a tremendous change. My thing is to, I think starting off, I guess when we take one step back, we saw a lot of meat meals, and then there was a big push for fresh meat, and now you see fresh meat added into extruded kibble at rates unheard of. I mean, 80% plus of that. And then
Yeah,
then from there was born the freeze-dried space and the fresh space. And it's
sure.
interesting you guys were already doing that back in the 90s. I find that it's super intriguing because that was
Insane.
not a thing at that point, right?
Oh, no. And that's
But
it.
beautiful.
And that was the hardest part when I started, right? So like the story I almost didn't believe. I'm like, this can't be real, right? And you know, it was a New England run company, homegrown, home roots in Connecticut, and really no one really heard about it outside of our state or outside of New England. And that was, my number one like face that I went up against was, all right, well, now how do I take this story and how do I amplify it? And how do I get people to, know about our product and give us a
Yeah.
shot with their dogs, right? And it's cool to see the process because there's not many companies that will take everything from procurement all the way to a finished product, right? There's
Correct. Yeah.
most companies will come in or they'll send their product out. They'll send it out for packaging. Like they may not even touch their product. I've seen a lot of DDC brands like they don't even see their product throughout the process, right? They just sell it, and it's cool to be a part of something where we're in like I'm in procurement meetings because
Hmm.
I have a say in regards to what we're, a new recipe we want to try or a new product that we want to launch. And to be able to see that come into fruition from like a boardroom of our procurement director and ownership, like reaching out to their procurement contacts and, hey, we're going to try this. Next thing you know, 3 months, we're selling it. And it's really, that's like the procurement side of it to me is like the most interesting because I think it's part of our company at least that doesn't get the credit that it deserves, right? Everyone always wants to be like, oh, Brian, that was a killer email, good video, good sale, website's looking good, or whatever the case may be. And the how our product got here is like incredible to watch. I think that's why I really find what you do really interesting because that to me is the most exciting to see the legwork that goes behind procuring a product, but then watching it come into like product form, right?
Yeah,
Um,
that would be that would seeing the whole thing from the very beginning stages to it actual the product in the bag on the shelf coming through your facility. You're right. It's very few people get to experience that. That's really neat. But I appreciate the shout out for all procurement professionals out there.
yeah,
It is a tough role,
you
but
don't get the
you know
limelight, you know?
that's right. That's right. I remember joking with our head of sales at my previous company at one point and made a comment to her that, oh, you guys get all the glory. We just get dumped on. And we had this nice exchange going back and forth. Friendly. It was great. We had a good time. Um, but you know what? It's been, it is a fun role. I think the neatest thing is you get to see some interesting places and people and processes when you're sourcing ingredients. That is probably one of the neatest things. Um,
I agree. I agree. And I think it's a space as well where it's not so cut and dry as other areas in our company are in regards to like I know what I have to do to make our website function the way it is, to send the email correctly, to make the post correctly, to set up our back end coupon correctly or our subscriptions. But then you go to the procurement side of it, and you sit in a room with our procurement director for an hour, and it's like math all at once while being on hold with this guy and being on a Zoom with this guy. And hey, we have so many ingredients and so many products that it's to see her juggle all of that and to see because the amount of we also do supplements too, right? So like
uh-huh.
our the procurement side on the supplement thing, that's another thing I was going to ask you about if you guys handle any like supplement ingredient procurement. Um, any of that stuff because that's also something that we're looking to move on from our current provider. But um, yeah, seeing all that happen is like really cool to watch. Really cool to watch, you know.
Yeah, yeah. No, we don't do a lot in the supplement space today. Tell me a little more about that. That's not a piece of the whole offering to the pet industry that I am very familiar with. I understand the food side, but walk me through the supplement piece a little bit.
Yeah, so the we have the company started with we call them like signature mixes. So the signature mixes are literally just organs, meats, bones, protein, the meat, and then some vegetables, right? So that's when we started with the chicken, turkey, beef, and lamb, and then AFCO to make everything AFCO complete, right? It needs to be a balanced diet with added vitamins in it to make it a
Hmm.
complete meal. So then that's when we're like, all right, well, let's start looking for. This is years ago. They started looking for an all-in-one, all natural vitamin supplement to add inside of those meats to make them AFCO complete. So we have two lines of products where one of them is called our signature, and that's like for rotational feeders that they want to feed different proteins and they want to add stuff themselves. And then we also put a supplement in those same exact recipes in order to make it AFCO complete for the folks that kind of just want to get it delivered, have it thaw out, and then feed their dogs, right?
Hmm.
But then we also offer like advanced mobility, help with joints and all that stuff. We have digestive performance, help with gut health, fundamental vitality, which is essentially what we put inside of our signature mixes to make it AFCO complete. We have like salmon oil, and I believe we're getting in. I'm gonna have to look, but we're getting in a new one. It's like an electrolyte replenisher, but those are essentially all those products are sourced from the same company, and then we work together to formulate the recipe. And that side of the supplements, mainly it's used for the meat, but we also sell those individually in jars for folks that want to feed it
Feed dog
themselves
food,
and
yeah.
all that stuff. So that's sort of how like the supplement game like infiltrated Almost Pride.
Yeah. No, it seemed like a natural progression, right? I
Yeah.
mean, addressing different needs of pet parents. I find one thing you mentioned interesting. You talked about an all-natural vitamin premix. What does that look like for you guys? Is that just made up of like natural ingredients, no synthetic vitamins and minerals, or?
Yeah, realistically, it's just no synthetic stuff. So that's really how it's I guess it's technically if you wanted to, it's not 100% all natural, but there's no synthetic vitamins or minerals in it. Like for instance, I'll like pull up so this one is our digestive performance, and it's dried whole egg, dried poultry liver powder, calcium carbonate. Um, you got some other liver in here. You have some spleen in here, and it's literally just like powdered down and mixed together. But that's just like an example
Nice.
of one of
Yeah.
our
Yeah.
one of our mixes.
Yeah,
Um,
it's interesting to bring that up. It's not the first time I've come across people looking for an all natural vitamin and mineral type premix, and I don't think there's anything out on the market that's strictly pet food today. There is a food product that is food grade used in a lot of vitamin and mineral supplements in the food world, but that's one of the interesting things that I think with the background, my background and my partner's background at Mesa Verde, one of the it's a goal of ours probably within, I think we'll probably start on the process this next year, not in 24 but in 25, but developing a premix that is
mm,
based off dried fruits, veggies, mushrooms, and various other
yeah.
items to develop a vitamin and mineral premix that is completely natural with natural ingredients. I think the biggest thing I believe in that building that out is you're going to have consistent supply. Like those ingredients come to need to
Yes.
be the same and same growing regions again and again and again, so you can get repeatability. And
Yeah.
that's one of the things I'm really intrigued about pursuing. We are in the process of installing a micro blending system in our Bakersfield, California plant. And that's really something that I brought to the table when I came on board 3 years ago. Is my past life in milling, we did a bunch of milling. That was what we did for the majority of my career. So I'm very familiar with, and essentially buying dry ingredients, either what we've produced or from outside companies, putting those into a blend and then sending that blend to the customer. That allows the customer not having to purchase five, six, seven different items. They can buy one
Yes.
component, put it in the mix, and go down the road. And if you look at it from a strictly cost of goods standpoint, it may not make sense on paper, but if you factor in the planned efficiencies gained in that in that process, it makes a lot of
Worth
sense
it.
pretty quick.
Worth it.
Yeah. So that's
Yeah, no, that's
one of the
great.
new things that we're trying to be innovative about and trying to develop this. Now I'm not, I don't have any illusions. It's not going to be a cheap process to get this done, right? You go to test vitamins and minerals, that those are expensive tests, and then you have to get that consistency down. But I think it's a natural progression. I think we'll start seeing, you see it in food today, and I think you'll start seeing more of a demand for that. The biggest challenge is getting that premix down to a level that's affordable
Yes,
in
yeah,
formulas.
for
That
sure.
is the barrier of entry today. So that's the challenge in front of us, something that we're excited about, looking forward to pursuing.
Yeah.
Um, it's
No,
very
I hear
interesting.
you.
I did forget to mention too, one of the things we've gotten into this year in 24 was blanched, diced, and dried vegetables. So we do an inclusion piece for a company. It's a 1/4 inch diced carrot. We
Okay.
also do some 3/8 diced carrots, and we have the opportunity to do this with any of the products that we produce in our plants, but we're trying to start out at and perfect the process, perfect the one commodity, and then we can move to others. But we're seeing piece identity is a big deal as well. A lot of people want to see the product in the food, actually physically see it. Something you guys in the fresh side have been doing from day one, I'm sure.
Yeah.
You can see probably bits and pieces of the fruits
Yeah.
and veggies in there. But here's a little teaser for Pet Food Forum. We're going to have, in a few weeks when we go to Kansas City for the Pet Food Forum, we're going to debut a blend we've put together that's a piece identity blend. So it's various ingredients we've put together in a blend, and it kind of looks like, if you ever, fruit salad, you think of fruit
Yeah.
salad,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
kind of looks like a fruit salad, but it's
Oh,
the
that's
dry
cool.
ingredients blended together. And so we're gonna, tout that
Showcase
at Pet
that.
Food Forum. Yeah. So anyway, little
That's
teaser
cool.
for the
Little
future, but
teaser. Little teaser for the people. I love it.
yeah,
That's awesome. Yeah, and that's something that we notice, especially in retail. It's like customers just want to see what's in it. It's like the biggest sell point for that. Like all of our bags have, 80% windows, right? Like we
yeah.
barely have a logo on it because we want people to obviously see the product. But hey, we have a few minutes. I think before we started this, you and I were talking off camera, but kind of want to make this last segment sort of relatable, where there's obviously a lot of people out there that have jobs that they love, and a lot of people that have kids at home, a family at home, and it's sometimes very frustrating and very hard to juggle being, all in 100% at work, and then going home and having, my 4-year-old, 2-year-old drawn on walls, jumping on me. My wife's had a long day. She got the newborn at home too. It's like you're walking into, I don't know if you've seen the movie, like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, right? It's like I walk in the house sometimes and I'm like, this is a zoo. This is a human zoo right now. Hanging from the chandelier. One daughter's going nuts. My newborn's crying and she wants food, right? And I've just drained all my energy at work, and I'm going home like, oh my God. And it's like the most, like we were talking about, the most relatable thing, something that people have a hard time with, is how do you give 100% at work, and then you get home and now you have to give 110% to your family and kids, right? Like, to me, that is something that, you mentioned earlier before this, that is a struggle, and it still is. It still is. But
Absolutely.
it's a way where I'm able to enjoy what I do so much at work. I think I would be a much worse father and a much worse husband if my job didn't fulfill me, right? So like if I wasn't
Yeah.
fulfilled at work and I didn't
Hmm.
really enjoy what I was doing, I'd be a miserable human being. And then I'd go home and I'd lash out my kids or my wife, etc. So I think that's the light for me, is I love what I do so much at work that it doesn't feel like I'm drained after, because it's just something that I love doing. And then that translates at home, because now I love being a dad. I love my kids. I love my wife. And it's just an extension of my day
Yeah.
versus, coming to work and being like, does that make sense? Do you feel the same?
Absolutely. I think, actually, I think it's something that we all deal with. Just very few of us are willing to share it publicly because if for some reason we have a perception that it doesn't fit the mold.
Yeah.
We'll go to a trade show and we'll interact with everybody and get accolades and pats on the back and wow, you're doing amazing stuff. And yet, then we go home and we feel like, man, I'm failing. I'm not a good husband. I'm not a good father. I don't right now. This day is done. I'm done. Last thing I want's a 4-year-old crawling on my lap, pulling my hair, tweaking my ears, wanting some daddy time. It's something we don't talk about. I think one thing I mentioned, I really appreciate when you're posting on LinkedIn, you always got a blurb in there about the family. It's 100% relatable because we all deal with that. It's something that we all are dealing with every time we get home. I don't have a great answer. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure it out
Yeah.
myself. But one thing that I think of is I liken it to having, let's just say we've got three full-time jobs. You've got your career, you've got your job as a husband, you got your job as a father. Those are three balls you have in the air.
Mm,
And I think for me, what I've at least today, where I sit today, my thought process is, how do I not let any of those drop? Some will fall, but I need to pick them back up right away.
yeah.
But I may not be able to bounce them all extremely high, but as long as I'm keeping them all airborne,
Yeah.
I'm winning. You're not going to win 100% at all costs. I'll never forget, to your point, there's been times I would come home from work and I've had a bad day and we messed this up and this went south and people were yelling at me because we paid too much for this ingredient and so on and so forth. And I come home and right away, my wife's at home and, well, this broke over, the kitchen sink is broke, and then this happened over and my son comes in, oh yeah, dad, I got a flat tire on the truck you need to fix, and oh, the mower's out of gas, and this thing just keep piling on, and you're just like, it's never ending. I might as well just go crawl in a hole or just go right back out the door and
Yeah.
find a hobby that keeps me away from this. Well, that's not an answer either, right?
Yeah.
Um, so I think that everybody in their own way, has a way of dealing with that. But to your point, I think finding what you're passionate about, finding a job you like, and then you come home and you're not extremely drained.
Yeah.
And I think that takes time, finding that place is
Agreed.
something that you develop over the course of time. And I think that once you just give yourself, and I think we have to give ourselves white space, whether it's at
For
work
sure.
and at home. We have to, and schedule it on your calendar. I live and die by my Outlook calendar. If it's on the calendar, it's
Yes.
probably going to happen. If it's not there, it ain't happening. So I even will go to the point that schedule, like I've got 2 hours, this afternoon. It is white time. It is strictly to stop and to think about. The first hour is, what do we need to get ready for Pet Food Forum? Meetings are in place, hotels, make sure that's booked,
Yep.
flights are booked. If
Yep.
you're not showing up, oh, sorry, Mr. Rokey, we don't have your reservation
Yeah.
here. Then the next one is just, okay, how do we strategize when we're talking to these customers at the show? What are we pushing? How are we going to position ourselves? And
You need
then
that time.
that's freeing. And I've even gone to the point that even when I was punching the clock at the office, I would take the last like 30 minutes of my day, if I could fit it in, and do no phone calls and try to prepare myself for exiting and going home. Now that
Yes.
may have been from 4:30 to 5, that may have been from 6:30 to 7,
Yeah.
depending on how the day was going. I think everybody, there's tools and there's things you can do, and there are things that work for me may not work for you. But I'm glad you brought it up because I think it's something that everybody touches. And
Agreed. It's
how do you
something
how do
that
you get through that? Yeah,
it's so relatable to everyone, and it's like, and there's friends of mine, we have three kids. A lot of my friends either don't have kids or maybe they have one. And it's like, how do you do it? It's so hard. And it's hard, but like,
it is
if it
hard. Yeah,
if it's not hard, I tell people, like, listen, if parenting's not hard, if your job's not hard, then you're not doing a good job, right? Then it's
yeah,
everything's going to be hard. Being a parent's very hard. Being a very good employee is very hard. Running a very successful company is very hard, right? If things were easy, then obviously something's wrong, right? And that's
yeah,
like the one takeaway that I am like, yes, being a parent is hard, right? Being a director of e-commerce or procurement or VP is very, very hard. But
yes.
that's yeah, that's something I kind of wanted to like end this on, because I think it's just like super relatable. And this is, I don't know how, I have to figure out this Zoom thing. It says it's going to end in less than a minute. So if it does shut off, it's not me just hitting the X on you. But no,
Done with this interview. He's gone.
but I